Welcome to another at-home edition of Get It Girl. I'm your girl, Natasha Martinez, here with an amazing guest. She's got all the vibes behind her. She's an amazing Latina who turned her love and passion for plants and activism into her business. Her name is Andi Xoch, and she is the founder of Latinx With Plants. Andi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, tell us about Latinx With Plants. How did this come about? Because it's definitely a very unique thing that is extremely important in today's world. So tell us about its inception.
I mean, I could go as far back as my connection with plants as a child. You know, my fondest memories as a child have always been surrounded by nature. My parents, when they were still together, they would take us to the mountains, they would take us to forests and lakes, and that was one of the times where I felt the most free and happy. My mom and my dad were, you know, at that time very happy, and it just made me feel normal. And growing up, you know, life happens, they, you know, split up, and everybody was getting boyfriends, they were getting married, and I was like, where do I stand, you know? And I went back to what made me feel good about myself, and it was having plants. And it always showed me that I didn't have to have pets, I didn't have to have a boyfriend to feel like I was normal. And taking care or nurturing something always made me feel good about myself. Fast forward, I went into depression, and I think it had a lot to do with where I was living and who I was surrounding myself with. I didn't have a lot of light in my room. And when I wanted to get plants again, because I knew that's what would make me happy, I saw them dying. And when I thought about why are they dying, it's like, of course, they don't have light. And I realized that because they didn't have light, it made me think about, well, I don't have light. Yeah, I'm not feeling well. So it made me reevaluate the way I was living. And once I brought more light into my life, I was getting up earlier, I was being more productive. I was actually reminding myself about not just watering my plants, but like watering myself, like drinking more water. And these little things have pushed me to remember what was important in my life. But it came to a point where I had to fundraise. My dad wasn't doing well, and I needed money. I needed to generate some income to make sure that I could feel that I could help him out. I started selling plants out of my front yard. I don't know if I'm getting ahead, but I think it's like it all literally happened so fast.
Yes. When did this start? And you're not getting ahead, but you know, obviously this relationship with plants, which I love. You thought about not needing a boyfriend, not needing a pet, but nurturing the plants, and in turn giving you its own life. So when did you open up the first store?
The first store opened up in July, and it all happened so fast. So I started selling plants out of my front yard in May, and then I think I did like 10 more pop-ups. And then I was able to, save my money, especially during COVID. I wasn't really going out. I wasn't getting tempted by a good time. So I was like, I'm going to save my money.
Good for you.
And apply myself. I've always wanted my own business. And I had a good job and a really awesome art studio here in Boyle Heights. Shout out to Self Help Graphics for believing in me also. And I had to quit it because I had to prioritize my father and what was now becoming my business. And I decided to take that leap, quit my job, and invest every cent and energy that that was in me into this business without knowing what the outcome would be. But I just had a good feeling, and finally, like in my 30s, I'm learning to trust my instincts and my gut feeling.
You were an artist before, right?
Right.
So how do you feel that the art and now, this Latinx with plants kind of goes hand in hand? Do you find any similarities between the two? Does one help the other?
Yeah, well, my first pop-ups were at Self-Graphics, and I immediately understood that what I was doing in my art world could somehow come together with the plants. So I was painting my pots. I was making sure that what I was doing was a representation of who I was, and that my artistry can reflect my designs as a plant business owner. So I was dressing them up, I was styling, I was thinking about what I would want in my home. And I couldn't find that. And I couldn't find that at an accessible price. So that was always my intention, to make it accessible and affordable. You know, the market has fluctuated. So I've been having to learn with it and understand that the prices are going up, and sadly I have to be smart and a smart businesswoman and also raise my prices slightly, or else, you know, I won't be able to sustain myself. I'll be working for everyone else and burning out.
And did you have a business background before, or are you kind of just, you know, learning as you go along?
I'm winging it. I don't know what I'm doing.
I love it. You're like, I'm in my 30s, I'm trusting my gut, I'm winging it. That is so inspiring, and definitely amazing to see a young woman like yourself doing that. Do you mind me asking how your father is doing now?
Don't, I'm gonna cry.
Okay, we don't have to get into it. But
I think no, I think it's more than anything, it's he's in the hospital right now, and I'm a big chillona, but lately, because of my dad, I just like, I'll cry like watching a comedy, because I'm dealing with a lot, and I think that what I'm going through is nothing new, and it's not unique. It's what's unique is that I'm being highlighted during this time. And I think it's important. I think it's important for me to highlight the way we've been treating our elderly. It's also my responsibility to show a level of vulnerability, because we're not all super women. I think like a lot of us are going through a lot, and I think the women that are going through the most end up doing the most in their careers and in their lives, because they know the struggle, they know how hard it is, and that it wasn't just handed. So yes, I have a lot of pressure. Yes, I have a lot of stress and heartbreak. But thanks to that, I think I found like the fire that's that's burning in me to keep on going, the tenacity that I found in me to make sure that I show up to work. I can't call into work anymore. Like, I have to be present, and I have to make sure that everyone's taken care of, because ultimately my goal is not just to provide a service to my community, but also be there for my father. And yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but I'm happy that I have the resources to be there for him.
Absolutely. That is such an inspiring story, and thank you so much for being vulnerable, because you're right. I mean, there's a lot going on in today's world. There's also, I'm very close with my family as well. There's the guilt of not being able to see my grandparents because I'm afraid that, I'm going to put them in harm's way. So I really admire how you've taken something so heartbreaking and have created something that is literally life, and sharing that with your family and your community. So I do want to talk about the mission statement of, Latinx with Plants. Like, what, besides taking care of your father, what was your main goal in sharing the gift of plants and life to your community specifically?
At first, I think I just wanted to share the joy that I was receiving from the plants, and the healing that I would get from just even being around them. Like, the last thing that I see when I go to sleep is my plants. The first thing that I see when I wake up are my plants. So they remind me, you gotta get up, you gotta water them. Yes, some of my plants are drying, but I have a bigger, world. I have like so much that's going on behind me and in front of me that, like I can't do everything, but it's okay, because I go to my job, I go water the plants, I try my best to take care of the ones here, and my my goal is to reconnect my community with their roots through plants. Most of these plants come from Latin America, and I see and I get reminded of that when I open up and I put all the plants outside of our store, and I see señoras and señores, the elderly, just passing by and like pointing or just even staring, just like staring at the plants, and they'll start talking to themselves, or they'll talk to me about how it reminds them of their home countries, and how they connect to them, how they heal through them. I think highlighting our connection, and to me, it's not a trend, you know. To me, it's a new era of reconnecting with plants.
You have talked about seeking the spread of ancestral plant knowledge. Is that kind of what you're talking about? And how does that help combat environmental racism in, you know, Black and Brown communities? How does diving into that ancestral plant knowledge uplift the community?
Plants, at the end of the day, are healing. Like, whether you just have a house plant, it's providing oxygen, it's clearing your air, it's motivating you to give a little bit of yourself and bring out the healer in you, and that's just like, I think, a stepping stone to realizing like all these other plants that can be healing to you, like if you choose to, and end up growing your own food or growing other vegetables or flowers that can clean the soil. That's a way of fighting environmental racism. Pushing for more parks, pushing for more community gardens. I think that's our way of not just talking about combating environmental racism, but actually being proactive about it.
Absolutely. And I have to say congratulations to you, because you just opened your second location in Boyle Heights. Did you have to close the first one, or do you now have two locations?
Well, first I opened it up because I needed more space. Yes, my business is growing, but my store right now is so tiny that I've outgrown it. I'm realizing that I need, you know, more soil, more pots, you know, just space and space to show folks how to do it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that. I first started from my porch to my canopy to my garage, and then eventually getting my own physical space on Chavez, and now getting my second location, which is bigger. I love how I just been able to grow, but not just grow, but grow fast. And
Really fast, yes.
Really fast. And yes, plants are popular, but I want to let people know that it didn't just happen overnight. I've been organizing in the community for about 10 plus years, and all of that grassroots organizing and learning how to be autonomous, learning how to run a collective and be part of one, trained me to be ready for being a business owner. I think that's a very important part of sharing my story, that grassroots was so important in my growth as a business owner, that community building and essentially turned out to be networking. And my first clients were people that I met through organizing, or that had come to one of our workshops. Mm-hmm. So that makes me feel good. That makes me feel like the community that I always wanted to build has been showing up for me.
Is that, would you say, your best advice for maybe someone who is looking to start their own business that doesn't have, you know, the background of business? Would it be to be networking and community organizing, or what would your best advice be for someone that's looking to follow in your footsteps?
Do those things because they come out of your heart. Do the networking, yes, it's smart. Do the community building because it's your duty. It's our duty to give back to the community. And I'm faced with that challenge now. Like, how am I implementing my community skills, like community building skills, into running a business? But more than anything, if it's something that you love and you're passionate about, and that you feel that it's gonna help other people, then there's no wrongdoing. You can't go wrong. And there's different levels of success. You know, of course, I still don't even know what success feels, because my vision is way bigger. Like, my expectations of myself are way higher. But yes, I can appreciate my accomplishments, but I don't conform. And I always think there's a lot more work to do. And the acknowledgement is great, but I try not to pay too much attention, because it's easy to let it get to your head. And you got to remain humble. You got to just focus on what you need to do, and don't worry if you're not succeeding right away. I think that's one of the reasons why I've been so focused, because I don't let what's around me or my competitors or like my, people who want to bring me down affect me. It's just surround yourself by your cheerleaders and by your biggest supporters. And I think that's what we need to do. It's about quality, not quantity.
Absolutely. And talking about communities, supporters, giving back, you have also given back to different organizations. For instance, you were auctioning some plants and donated the proceeds to Gender Justice LA and the Audre Lorde Project. So can you tell us about those two initiatives specifically and why you chose to give back to them?
I've always had the need to help people. And I'm not trying to save no one. I'm trying to let them know that I'm in solidarity with their struggles. I think that's, at the end of the day, the best we can do if we can't directly donate. I'm using all of my resources to make sure that they're put to good use. And I know eventually that my success, or whatever money I make, at the end of the day, if I reach my goal, it's gonna be for the community, because that's always been my baby. Like, they raised me when in a time where I felt like I didn't have family that I could depend on. I chose my chosen family to be there for me, and they're the ones who helped me get to where I'm at now. They were my family, and I want to be there for someone else. I know that once I get this right, that I'll be able to help other young entrepreneurs and hopefully help them in their journey of becoming business owners, because there's enough for everyone. We are not in competition.
I just admire how much of your heart that you pour into all of this, and I really, really am so excited for the future of Latinx Plants. What do you see for the future for Latinx with Plants?
I want, like, my goal would be to employ my community. So opening up more stores is definitely a goal, but ultimately just getting more people to jump on the bandwagon. I don't care if it's a trend. It's like, we need more people to have plants, because that just means they're going to start appreciating the rest of the plant world, which is gardening, and realizing and appreciating where our food comes from, what is happening to our wildlife, our forests, our Amazon, and that's just a stepping stone. So that's my ultimate goal, getting people involved. But if you want to talk about something, physical, I definitely want to have like a recreational center where I can teach and host more workshops. Space is what I always want to create, safe spaces. And if it's safe spaces that contribute to fighting environmental justice, that's a plus.
Absolutely. I know you're extremely busy with the business and of course taking care of your family, but we're all in this stay-at-home order quarantine together, and there's a few things that have been going on that I think we can all relate to. So I want to just run through a few little scenarios about quarantine and just answer them honestly. So have you been getting into any of your guilty pleasures? What has it been? Is it watching bad TV, becoming addicted to Zoom, or like lounging in your pajamas for too long?
Oh my God, I didn't realize how busy running a business would be, but then running a plant business,
Mm-hmm.
I've find myself just watering and pruning all day that I really haven't had time for much. I come home and I fall asleep, I wake up and I go back to the store, and the 2 days that aren't open, I'm plant shopping, I'm pot shopping. But I think my guilty pleasure would be, staying at my shop late night and just turning on the mood lights and just enjoying a beer. And I think I even fell asleep there the other night. And I slept in my shop and I felt kind of weird, but I also felt like, wow, like that's the power of plants, that I feel so safe.
Yes.
In my little jungle utopia.
I love that. Addicted to your craft, but at home in the most, positive way. How about, what's your beer of choice?
Allagash. I think
Okay.
that's my favorite beer right now. It's like a blonde. Madre Mezcal, I think, is a really delicious mezcal that I've been enjoying.
Oh, I love it.
It's really good.
You're giving me plant tips and mezcal tips, and for that I thank you. And definitely thank you for sharing your story with us and our viewers, and just sharing your light and your heart. You have a very, very beautiful heart. Thank you for what you do, and thanks for joining us here on Get It Girl. Where can everyone follow you?
You can follow us at Latinx With Plants on Instagram, and mine is at Andi Xoch. I will usually post behind the scenes, and of course, Latinx With Plants, you'll get more tips and more insights of like what we're doing at the store.
Definitely. Well, we have a new follower in me. Thank you so much, Andi Xoch, for talking to us here at Get It Girl. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next time.